Run.
Imagine waking up and something inside you is changing. Not just your body, you. Blake Lovell thought going back home would help him heal, but when the full moon rises, something awaken inside him. Something that would change him forever. This isn't your typical werewolf story. It's a battle for control between the man he was and the beast he's becoming. And when you see the ending, you'll realize you've been tricked into thinking this was just another horror flick. Want to know what it's all about? The shocking ending and the hidden facts with twists no one's talking about? Or maybe you're curious about the entire Wolfman legacy from 1941 to now and the connections you never noticed. So grab your coffee, turn off the lights, and hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to show us some love. Stay with us. Silent Hour is about to break it all down for you. The film opens in the dense, mist-laden woods of Oregon, where a young Blake Lovell follows his father, Grady, on a hunting trip. Grady is a man hardened by life. His love for Blake is real, but it manifests in tough lessons and sharp words.
Blake, see, this is what I'm talking about. You're not hearing me. You're off in your own goddamn world somewhere.
Yes, sir.
After a tense exchange between them, the forest goes unnervingly silent. Then they see it, a figure moving between the trees. It looks human, but moves like an animal, its limbs too fluid, its presence all wrong. Before Blake can even process what he's seeing, Grady grabs him and they run, narrowly escaping an attack. That night, Blake sneaks out of bed and overhears his father speaking in hushed, urgent tones over a CB radio. He's calling another hunter, saying he's going back into the woods. "I need to end this," he says. The next morning, Grady is gone. The film cuts to black. Years later. Now an adult, Blake, Christopher Abbott, is living in San Francisco with his wife, Charlotte, Julia Garner, and their daughter, Ginger, Matilda Firth. Their marriage is unraveling. Blake is distant, haunted by things he won't talk about, while Charlotte is exhausted from holding everything together. Then a letter arrives. The state of Oregon has declared his long-missing father legally dead. Blake now owns his father's isolated farmhouse. Looking for an escape from their crumbling life, Blake suggests they take a trip to Oregon to pack up the house, reconnect, and maybe, just maybe, heal. Charlotte is reluctant, but she agrees. What's the worst that could happen?
You are an incredible mother. You are. Come with me.
The woods hold their secrets. From the moment they arrive, the forest feels different, ancient, watching. The winding dirt roads confuse their GPS, and night falls faster than expected. Lost, they run into a local hunter who offers to guide them to the farmhouse. Then, the crash. Something massive lunges into the road. Blake jerks the wheel. The truck skids, slams into a tree. Before they can react, it's there. A hulking figure with glowing eyes, its breath curling into the night air. It rips at the doors, trying to get inside. Blake shields Charlotte and Ginger, but the beast's claws slice through his arm before he manages to shove it back. The family stumbles out of the wreckage, running blindly through the woods. They barely make it to the farmhouse, slamming the door behind them. For a moment, there's silence. Then, the changes begin. The monster within. At first, it's subtle. Blake's wound burns unnaturally hot. His hearing sharpens, his pupils dilate. He smells things he shouldn't, Charlotte's perfume from across the room. the damp wood of the floorboards, the metallic tang of his own blood. And then, something worse. When Charlotte speaks, her words twist and distort, turning into a sound his brain struggles to comprehend.
Can you understand me? You're hearing me. You're scaring me.
Outside, the creature is still there, circling the house, waiting. As the hours stretch on, Blake's body twists in ways it shouldn't. His fingers twitch, his bones shift beneath his skin. He fights it, but the beast inside is winning. Desperate to escape, Charlotte and Ginger make a run for the old truck in the barn. But just as they reach it, the monster blocks their path. Only, it isn't just one. There are two figures in the dark. One lunges, and Blake, driven by something primal, throws himself at it. Teeth flash, claws tear. The fight is brutal. Blake lands a killing blow, sending the creature crashing into the dirt. But as the moonlight washes over it, he sees the truth. It's his father. Grady, transformed into something no longer human. The same fate that's now gripping Blake. Charlotte and Ginger watch in horror as Blake stumbles back, his breathing ragged, his body barely his own. The beast inside him has taken over. They run, making it to the deer blind, the very place where Blake first saw the creature as a child. He follows, snarling, his body no longer his own. But deep inside, some part of him is still fighting. Then, a small voice cuts through the chaos. Ginger. Tears streaking down her face, she looks at her father. Not as a monster, but as a man in agony.
Mommy, he wants this to be over.
Blake's body tenses. His lips curl back. Charlotte raises the gun. The shot echoes through the valley. The aftermath. As the first light of dawn creeps over the trees, Charlotte and Ginger walk out into the valley near the farmhouse. The place Blake once told Charlotte he wanted to reclaim as a home. A place of love instead of fear. Blake couldn't escape the shadow of his father, but Charlotte and Ginger will. They will carry his memory, but not his curse. And as they step into the sunlight, the forest behind them hums with life. Watching, waiting. Because curses don't just die, they pass on. Now that we know what happened in Wolfman 2025, let's dive into the other Wolfman movies to uncover the stories in case you haven't watched them. This will help us fully understand the breakdown, hidden facts, and twists which are coming right after this section.
When the moon calls, the legend awakens once more. From 1941 until now, horror's darkest curse is reborn. But be warned, the curse of the werewolf never dies. It only waits for its next host. And now, fate has chosen you as its next victim. Embrace your fate and claim your curse with 40% off. Today only. Link below before it's too late.
The Wolfman, 1941. Larry Talbot never wanted to return home, but after his brother's sudden death, he had no choice. Back at the cold, towering Talbot Castle, he tries to reconnect with his distant father. But something about the place feels different. Eerie. Like a shadow lurking just out of sight. One night, seeking distraction, Larry turns his telescope toward the village and spots the beautiful Gwen Conliffe. Drawn to her, he visits her antique shop, where his eyes land on a silver cane with a snarling wolf's head. A harmless trinket, or so he thinks, until Gwen recites a haunting poem about werewolves and fate.
Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright.
The words linger in his mind, unsettling yet absurd, until later that night. At a gypsy carnival, fortune-teller Bela stares in horror at Gwen's friend Jenny seeing a death omen in her palm. Larry laughs it off until Jenny's blood-curdling scream pierces the night. He finds her under attack, a monstrous wolf tearing at her throat. Instinct takes over. He fights, bludgeoning the beast with his silver cane. The wolf collapses, but when Larry blinks, the animal is gone. The next morning, Larry's wound has vanished. No scar, no pain, nothing. Yet the whispers start. The villagers talk of curses, of werewolves lurking in the fog. And then the gypsy woman Maleva finds him. Her words cut through his denial.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
He tries to resist, tries to fight it, but deep down, he knows. Then the full moon rises. Pain erupts through his body, twisting his bones, stretching his skin. His hands sprout claws, his face contorts into something monstrous. The man he was is gone. The beast takes over. He prowls the village, hunger and instinct drowning out all reason. And when the morning comes, footprints, his footprints, lead straight to him. Desperate, Larry begs his father for help, but Sir John refuses to believe in superstition. That is, until the next full moon, until the beast returns, until he is forced to raise the silver cane against his own son. Larry dies under the same moon that cursed him, his father's final blow ending his torment. And as Maleva kneels beside him, she whispers a sorrowful prayer.
The way you walked was thorny, through no fault of your own. Your suffering is over. Now you will find peace for eternity.
The Wolfman, 2010. Lawrence Talbot never planned to return home. Blackmore held nothing but ghosts. His mother's tragic death, his father's cold indifference, and the brother he hadn't seen in years.
I'm afraid no one knows where Ben is, which is why I'm here.
But when a letter arrives from Gwen, his brother's fiancée, begging for help, he has no choice. Ben is missing. And something in the village isn't right. When Lawrence arrives, he finds his childhood home, Talbot Hall, rotting like a corpse. His father, Sir John Talbot, is distant, almost amused by his son's return. But the real horror waits in the village. Ben's body has been found, ripped apart like an animal's feast. Whispers spread in the tavern. Some blame the gypsies camped outside town. Others talk of an ancient curse, of something inhuman lurking in the woods. Determined to find answers, Lawrence visits the gypsy camp. But before he can learn the truth, the beast comes. A monstrous creature, fast and merciless, tears through the camp, slaughtering everything in its path. In the chaos, Lawrence sees a boy running, terrified. He chases after him, only to come face to face with the monster. It attacks, sinking its teeth into his shoulder before vanishing into the night. He should have died from the wound, but within days, it heals completely, too quickly. Gwen stays to care for him, but something inside him is changing. Then the full moon rises. Agony, bones snapping, skin stretching. Lawrence becomes the thing he feared. A mindless beast, hunting, killing, reveling in the blood. By morning, he is human again, waking up in the woods, drenched in the aftermath of his own carnage. The village knows. The hunters come. Dragged back to the asylum where he was once locked away as a child, Lawrence is subjected to cruel experiments. Doctors insisting his condition is all in his mind. But when they put him on display under the full moon, they learn the truth. In front of their eyes, he transforms, tearing through the hospital in a frenzy of blood and screams before disappearing into the night. Now he knows what he must do. He returns home to the source of the curse, his father. The man he once feared is no longer just a cruel, distant figure. He is the true monster. Decades ago, he was bitten in India, and instead of fighting it, he embraced it. He killed Ben. He let this curse fester, poisoning their family. Father and son face off in the ruins of Talbot Hall. The fire spreads as they fight, two beasts locked in a battle of pure rage. In the end, Lawrence does what must be done. He tears his father apart. But the curse still lives. Gwen finds him, sees the creature he has become. The man she loves is buried deep inside the monster. For a fleeting moment, his human self returns, just long enough to whisper one final plea. With tears in her eyes, she raises the gun. A single silver bullet ends it. As the flames consume Talbot Hall, a howl rises in the distance. The curse is never truly gone, and the hunt will begin again.
When the moon calls, the legend awakens once more. From 1941 until now, horror's darkest curse is reborn. But be warned, the curse of the werewolf never dies. It only waits for its next host. And now, fate has chosen you as its next victim. Embrace your fate and claim your curse with 40% off. Today only. Link below before it's too late.
Wolfman, 2025. Hidden facts, twists, and secrets you might have missed. The evolution of Wolfman. The idea of resurrecting the Wolfman didn't just happen overnight. Universal originally planned to bring the werewolf legend back in 2014, intending to make it a key part of their ambitious dark universe. A shared cinematic world that would feature reboots of classic monsters like Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Mummy. For a while, Hollywood whispers even suggested that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was being eyed to play the title role. But this grand vision came crashing down in 2017 when The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, bombed spectacularly. Universal quickly abandoned the dark universe altogether, shelving its interconnected monster films and leaving the Wolfman trapped in limbo. It wasn't until the massive success of 2020's The Invisible Man that Universal changed direction, opting for standalone horror films with bold, visionary directors at the helm. Lee Wannell, the mastermind behind The Invisible Man and Upgrade, was then tapped to bring Wolfman back from the dead. And from there, the beast was reborn.
On Wolfman, I felt that the best way to approach it was more practically. Action! I wanted to actually see it. I needed it to exist as if it was happening right in front of you.
Is Wolfman, 2025, a remake? How does it connect to the 1941 classic? For nearly a century, Universal has dominated horror history, giving us legendary monsters like Dracula, 1931, Frankenstein, 1931, and The Mummy, 1932. And among them, 1941's The Wolfman held a special place. One of the few Universal horror films not based on a novel or play. The original followed Larry Talbot, Lon Chaney Jr., a man desperately trying to reconcile with his estranged father, only to be bitten by a werewolf and cursed to transform into the very thing he fears most. Its chilling atmosphere and tragic themes cemented it as a horror classic. Fast forward to 2025, and while Lee Wannell's reimagining tells a new story, you can still see the DNA of the original film buried within it, just like a werewolf curse lurking under the surface. This time, the setting shifts from the misty Welsh countryside to a secluded farmhouse in Oregon, and instead of an estranged father-son duo, we follow a fractured family struggling to stay together. But make no mistake, Wolfman 2025 is no simple remake. It twists the werewolf legend into something darker, something more personal, and something with a truly gut-punching twist.
I really hope that people walk away from this film unable to forget the imagery.
Blake, stop!
It's not the Wolfman you've seen before.
The big twist in Wolfman 2025. Horror thrives on mystery, and Wolfman delivers one of the most devastating twists in recent monster movie history. Throughout the film, Blake is haunted by the disappearance of his father, Grady. After their terrifying childhood encounter with the unknown creature in the woods, Grady vanished without a trace. Declared legally dead, his absence weighs heavily on Blake, influencing every decision he makes as an adult, as a husband, and as a father. But when the werewolf curse takes hold, Blake fights to retain his humanity, battling not just the monster inside him, but also the creature stalking his family in the night. In the film's brutal climax, Blake does the unthinkable. He kills the beast that infected him. And then, the movie delivers its final, crushing revelation. As the lifeless creature collapses to the ground, the camera lingers on its arm. The audience catches a glimpse of something familiar, a tattoo. A tattoo that matches the one Blake's father had. The truth sinks in like a silver bullet to the heart. The monster that destroyed Blake's life, the beast that turned him into this nightmare, was his own father all along. The tragedy of Wolfman 2025. Unlike the 1941 film, where Larry Talbot's werewolf transformation is a supernatural fate beyond his control, Wolfman 2025 reinterprets the legend as a bloodline curse passed from father to son. Grady wasn't just lost. He had been living as a monster for years, hiding in the wilderness, waiting until fate brought his family back to him. This devastating twist gives the film a deeper, more personal tragedy. Blake spent his entire life trying to break free from his father's overbearing shadow, only to become the very thing he feared. And in the end, it's his own wife and daughter who are forced to put him down, just as he had to do to his father. As Charlotte and Ginger step into the morning light, the weight of the curse lingers. The werewolf may be dead, but the trauma, the fear, and the scars remain. A nod to body horror classics. Lee Wannell drew inspiration from David Cronenberg's The Fly, 1986, when crafting Wolfman. This influence is evident in the film's emphasis on the protagonist's physical and psychological transformation, adding a layer of body horror that intensifies the narrative's emotional impact. A unique visual style. Director Lee Wannell and cinematographer Stefan Duccio drew inspiration from films like Prisoners, 2013, and Sicario, 2015, to craft a grounded and atmospheric visual style for Wolfman. They employed practical lighting techniques on set to convey shifts in character perspectives, enhancing the film's immersive experience. Final thoughts. A dark future for Universal's monsters. Wolfman 2025 proves that horror reboots don't have to be soulless cash grabs. By taking a classic monster and infusing it with personal, gut-wrenching horror, Lee Wannell has crafted a brutal, emotional, and unforgettable take on the werewolf myth. But with its tragic ending and the rich lore surrounding the face of the wolf, Universal may have left the door open for something even bigger. Could we see more werewolves emerge? Could the curse resurface in unexpected ways? One thing's for sure, horror fans won't be sleeping easy after this one. What do you think of the Wolfman 2025 twist? Did you see it coming, or did it hit you like a full moon shock? Let us know in the comments. And of course, a heartfelt thanks to Silent Hour Guardian, Diddy Criffield. Your support keeps us going. And don't forget, be unique, be bold, and be you.